Hi, boys and girls. We are going to continue on with James and the Giant Peach. So, if you remember from Monday, we stopped on a cliffhanger, of course. We stopped where James had an idea and they were going to see if you can remember. They were going to have the seagulls lift the peach up out of the water, remember, by a string. And they said, well, how are you going to get all the seagulls down here? And he said, well, easily, by bait with a worm, right? And the earthworm was not a fan of that, obviously. He did not want to be eaten. And then James ended the chapter with saying, but earthworm, you won't have to die. And then he said, here's my plan. And then we stopped. Okay, so we're going to continue on there. Chapter 21. Why, it's absolutely brilliant, cried the old green grasshopper when James had explained his plan. The boy's a genius, the centipede announced. Now I can keep my boots on after all. Oh, I shall be pecked to death, wailed the earthworm. Oh, of course you won't, they all said. I will. I just know I will, and I won't even be able to see them coming at me because I have no eyes. James went over and put an arm gently around the earthworm's shoulders. I won't let them touch you, he said. I promise I won't. But we've got to hurry. Look down there. There were more sharks now than ever around the peach. The water was boiling with them. There must have been 90 or 100 at least. And to the travelers up on top, it certainly seemed as though the peach was sinking lower and lower into the water. Action stations, James shouted. Jump to it. Now there's not a moment to lose. He was the captain now, and everyone knew it. They would do whatever he told them. All hands on deck, or all hands below the deck, except Earthworm, he ordered. Yes, yes, they said eagerly as they scuttled into the tunnel entrance. Come on, let's hurry. And you, Centipede, James shouted, hop downstairs and go get that silkworm to work at once. Tell her to spin as she's never spun before. Our lives depend upon it. And the same applies to you, Miss Spider. Hurry on down. Start spinning. And that's the end of chapter 1. So, chapter 22. In a few minutes, everything was ready. It was very quiet now on the top of the peach. There was nobody in sight. Nobody except the earthworm. One half of the earthworm, looking like a great, thick, juicy pink sausage, lay innocently in the sun for all the seagulls to see. The other half of him was dangling down into the tunnel. James was close behind the earthworm in the tunnel entrance, just below the surface, waiting for the first seagull. He had looped a silk string in his hands. The old green grasshopper and the ladybug were further down in the tunnel, holding on to the earthworm's tail, ready to pull him quickly out of danger as soon as James gave the word. And far below, in the great hollow stone of the peach, the glowworm was lighting up the room so that the two spinners, the silkworm and Miss Spider, could see what they were doing. I'm going to show you this picture here before I move on to the next page. So here is the earthworm. And you can see this part down here. This is the tunnel. So he's hanging here up above the peach. And then down here is the tunnel where they're holding on to him. The centipede was down there too, helping both of them frantically to greater efforts. And every now and again, James could hear his voice coming up faintly from the depths, shouting, "Spin, silkworm, spin! You great, fat, lazy brute! Faster and faster, or else we'll throw you to the sharks!" "Here comes the first seagull," whispered James. "Keep still now, earthworm. Keep still. The rest of you, get ready to pull." Please don't let him eat me, begged the earthworm. I won't. Shh. Out of the corner of one eye, James watched the seagull as it came swooping down towards the earthworm. And then suddenly, as it was so close that he could see its small black eyes and its curved beak, and the beak was open, ready to grab a nice piece of flesh out of the earthworm's back. Pull! James shouted. The old green grasshopper and the ladybug gave the earthworm's tail an enormous tug, and like magic, the earthworm disappeared into the tunnel. At the same time, up went James's hand, and the seagull flew right into the loop of the silk that he was holding out. The loop, which had been cleverly made, tightened just to the right amount, but not too much, around its neck, and the seagull was captured. Hooray! Shouted the old green grasshopper, peering out of the tunnel. Well done, James. Up flew the seagull with James, paying out the silk string as it went. He gave it about 50 yards and then tied the string to the stem of the peach. Next one, he shouted, jumping back into the tunnel. Up you get again, earthworm. Bring up some more silk, centipede. Oh, I don't like this at all, wailed the earthworm. It only just missed me. I even felt the wind on my back as it went swishing past. Shh, whispered James. Keep still. Here comes another one. So they did it again, and again, and again, and again. And the seagulls kept coming, and James caught them one after another and tethered them to the peach stem. 100 seagulls, he shouted, wiping the sweat from his face. Keep going, they all cried. Keep going, James. 200 seagulls, 300 seagulls, 400 seagulls, James shouted. The sharks, as though sensing as if they were in danger of losing their prey, were hurling themselves at the peach more furiously than ever, and the peach was sinking lower and lower into the water. 500 seagulls, James shouted. Silkworm says she's running out of silk, yelled Centipede from below. She says she can't keep it up much longer, nor can Miss Spider. Tell them they've got to keep it up, James answered. They can't stop now. We're lifting, somebody shouted. No, we're not, somebody else said. Yes, we are. I felt it. Put on another seagull, quick. Quiet, everybody, quiet. There's one coming right now. This was the 501st seagull. And the moment that James caught it and tethered it to the stem with the others, the whole enormous peach suddenly started rising up slowly out of the water. Look out! Here we go! Hold on, boys! But then it stopped. And there it hung. It hovered and it swayed back and forth, but it went no higher. The bottom of it was just touching the water. It was like a delicately balanced scale that needed only the tiniest push to tip it one way or the other. Okay, we're going to stop right there for a second. I'm not ending the story. Make a prediction. What do you think is going to happen next? You'll have your predictions? Okay. One more seagull will do it, shouted the old green grasshopper looking out of the tunnel. We're almost there. And now came the big moment. Quickly, the 502nd seagull was caught and harnessed to the peach stem. And then suddenly, but slowly, majestically, like some fabulous golden balloon with all the seagulls straining at the strings above, the giant peach rose up, dripping out of the water, and began climbing towards the heavens. And that, oh, not yet. We have a picture, and that will be the end of chapter 22. So here's our picture. Let me get it at a better angle here. All right, so we have the shark down here, right? And the peach is lifting up higher, and then you have all of the seagulls. And I don't know if you guys can see it or not, but all of these up here, these are all seagulls. And there's a couple more up here closer that you can see. And there's the peach going higher and higher away from all of these sharks down here. All right, so that is the end of chapter 22. So we'll read chapter 23 on Friday. I hope you guys have a great day, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.